Hello, and thanks very much for this opportunity to highlight the work of an urban botanist. And I'm delighted to have with me the one and only Malcolm Macneil,
Thank you.
a name which I hope will become much more well known to everybody in BSBI as a result of this chat. We're going to talk about some of the background of what Malcolm has been doing and some facts and figures, and particularly to learn about the process of recording. So, first of all, congratulations on your BSBI award.
Thank you very much.
I know this has been richly deserved. You've done so much work, and it's nice to see it acknowledged in that way. How did you react to the news that you were getting an award?
I was extremely pleased, partly because I get the feeling that urban botany of the kind I do in obscure old industrial estates and
Hmm.
bare waste ground places that a lot of botanists don't really go to is a bit underappreciated. And there's so many species there that I thought the fact that my record to be recognized as pounding the streets, etc., gives me an incentive to keep on doing it
Yes,
and give
yes.
other people an incentive to try and do the same as well.
Yes, I mean, we hear a lot about people who climb mountains and find rare species, and Lanarkshire is famous for dumped fridges and uh, old bits of broken cars, and that's the habitat that you prefer to look at. So, the Lanarkshire Botany Network really got going in early 2017, and I think it was round about then that you first got in touch. Can you remember the reason? What was it that you wanted to?
Well, the reason was that I had been starting learning botany a few years before that.
Mhm.
And I had been going around as much of Glasgow as I could with a single book, really, and maybe the Lanarkshire flora, and trying to pick things up, sometimes just sitting for half an hour with the book
Mhm.
until I found the picture of what it was. But because you're doing it on your own, and I was doing it on my own, I was had uncertainty about it and unsure whether I was actually properly identifying things.
Mhm.
And the botany group, I thought, would teach me the experience of others that are doing that,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
just needed that backup.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. But I mean, you're giving the impression that you didn't know much, but you clearly knew a vast amount even by then. You must have started some years previously and built knowledge gradually over a
Yes,
long
well,
period
I
of time.
hoped I knew a bit, but I wanted
Yeah.
the proof of the pudding to people
Yeah.
like yourself to
Yeah.
confirm.
Well, the thing that you first, I got an email from you saying that you had found rue-leaved saxifrage, or as it's come to be known in our network, RLS. Now, the literary minded among the audience might think of RLS as being Robert Louis Stevenson, but RLS for us is rue-leaved saxifrage. And you said you'd found it in Park Circus in Glasgow, and I had never seen this species. It's rare in Scotland or uncommon in Scotland. Um, the Changing Flora of Glasgow was a seminal book back in 2002, and it doesn't mention rue-leaf saxifrage at all. Um, and then the Flora of Lanarkshire, which was published in 2016, only has, I think, 7 occurrences of it, and one of them is actually a record of yours. So it's as if this species has burst onto the scene very recently. Um, and having found it in Park Circus, you then proceeded to find it in other places. Not half. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I got the intuitively I thought there's more of this plant around than the book, the flora would suggest. And you can see the little relief rosettes on moss on tarmac or concrete in old industrial estates or whatever from roughly October onwards.
Mm.
And a lot of botanists don't do very much in the winter, but this is one thing I could get my teeth into
Hmm.
and wander as far in Glasgow as I could
Yeah.
in the winter months. And I gradually realized, to my surprise, that it was occurring all over the place. not only in old industrial estates, but just in pavements in the city streets, etc.
Yeah, I mean, and you found astonishing populations of it. I mean, we're talking many hundreds of plants in a very
Sometimes
small,
thousands.
yeah, in a
Yeah,
small area.
yeah,
So it may not be new in the scene, but your coverage of it has boosted the records unbelievably, not just in Glasgow, but in West Central Scotland more widely. And you've also recently spread your wings and gone to places like Stirlingshire and Ayrshire.
yeah. Because, well, a lot of people have been gradually finding it themselves, but I just thought if it's so common in Glasgow and Paisley and one or two places, it's got to be elsewhere as well. And so it turned out.
Yes. Um, I've worked out that you have made 1,290 records of rue leaf saxifrage in 156 monads since the start of 2018.
Mhm.
That is astonishing. That's an astonishing piece of work. And considering that what you're finding is often the diameter of a 5p coin,
Yeah.
it's just a most remarkable piece of Sherlock Holmes. I can imagine you with your big magnifying glass going
Yeah.
around all the pavements. So, but you must have your eye right in for it.
Well, once you get your eye in for it, and gradually you can recognize it from quite a distance,
Hmm.
but it takes time. But also, again, it's the winter months when there's not much else around, and it's not been vegetation is not covering it over,
Yes,
and
yes.
basically you can pound those streets.
And I've been out with you and you've said, oh, this isn't the right ground for it. There's something subtle about
Yeah.
moss cover on the edge of an old bus station or at the back
Mhm.
of a lorry park.
And certain types of moss as well,
Yes,
you know.
yes. So it's quite a remarkable piece of work, and I would invite anyone who's interested to look up rue leaf saxifrage and Glasgow and Malcolm Macneill's name, and you'll get a feel for what's been going on. So, how do you go about recording in a city? I mean, um, you tend to walk from the house, or do you get public transport, or how do you?
Sometimes use the train, sometimes use the car, sometimes just walk. It's partly exercise as well as everything else. But what I found with Glasgow, I mean, it stretches for, I don't know, 15, 20 miles or something in total.
Mhm.
Every part of Glasgow, every type of terrain, whether it's residential, old industrial estates, little lanes, docksides, etc., they've all got the chance for their own different kind of flora.
Mhm. Mhm.
And even new housing estates could come up with some new unusual things. So what I try and do is over time, visit every little street if possible, the whole area,
Mhm.
so that I can gradually work out what might appear in
Yeah.
certain types of location.
And then that's adding to your experience all the time. So you get a kind of sixth sense of, well, if that's here, then I should be looking for this, and
Hopefully.
so on.
Yeah.
Quite remarkable local knowledge. Um, do you know how many first Vice County records you've come up with in the last few years?
No.
Because we've checked in the database. Malcolm has come up with over 300 first Vice County records for Lanarkshire, Renfrewshire, or Dumbartonshire in the last 6 years. I think that is an astonishing statistic. So some of the species that you're finding are new, adventive in the area and increasing. Can you think of a few examples of that?
Well, ones that like really saxifrage that I think are under-recorded everywhere in the UK, I think, for example, New Zealand bittercress,
Yeah.
which is a tiny little thing, and its flowering is usually only for a couple of months, March, April usually.
Mhm.
And it obviously it's brought in from nurseries, etc., when people buy plants, but it readily scrapes into pavements
Yeah.
and roads.
Yeah.
And again, I've found it over quite a large, many miles area, and it's frequent, much more frequent than realized.
Also, you have found things like narrow-leaved ragwort to be on the increase.
Mhm.
Hawkweed oxtongue.
That's my recent favorite one, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
And That's the thing about botany, or from my point of view, botany anyway. This is a plant that can grow up to about 6 foot tall. It's quite a big, robust thing, big yellow flowers, and yet I missed it totally until a couple of years ago. Not that it's common. I mean, it's over a kind of 2 mile area
Mhm.
in a few places, but the fact that something like that can outwit your eyes is just amazing.
Or else it wasn't there.
No, I think the fact it was dotted around a 2 mile area and it's near railway line as well, the
Mhm.
main where the a bit of waste ground where it's really been allowed to flourish. I think the railways have maybe brought it in, trains coming up from south of England or whatever. Not
Okay.
sure though.
No, this is we could talk all day, but we're running out of time. So the one I want to ask you about was the when you found the glandular version of American speedwell. Um, I mean, finding American speedwell in itself is good because it's quite an inconspicuous plant. But how on earth did you realize at the time that this was special?
Well, all these speedwells, to make sure they are the American speedwell, I have to check if they've got hairs or not. And the fact that this one, yes, it did have hairs, but I noticed the word glandular and I thought there's something wrong
Mhm.
somewhere here. So I went home and looked up Stace and got the information there. But it was the fact that I do check for hairs in everyone, so
Yes,
just
yes.
luck really in a way.
Because I think in Stace, from memory, it says a glandular version has been reported from Hampshire.
Yeah.
So it's now been reported from Glasgow. Where was it, incidentally? Do you remember?
No, I can't remember at the moment, I'm afraid.
Because you tend to remember exactly where you find things, which is in itself remarkable. Well, we're going to have to leave our conversation there, but I hope this has given you a little window into what Malcolm's been up to. He's not only a local treasure, you're a national treasure, and much appreciated, and good fun to be out with, and we've all learned a great deal from you. So congratulations
Thank
again,
you.
and everyone should keep their eyes peeled for Malcolm's records.
Much
Right.
appreciated.